Welcome everybody to Snowy Valley's Council meeting, the 18th of July 2019, held at Tumbarumba. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay respects to elders past and present. This meeting is live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow Council's debates and decisions without the need to attend meetings in person. Members of the public attending or speaking at a meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valley's Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of the meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Please ensure that all mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. In the event of emergency at a council meeting, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and follow instructions given by the wardens. Please note that the new Code of Meeting Practice, which was adopted at the last council meeting, will be applied for this meeting. Thank you. Apologies and leave of absence. Got an amendment there to Councillor Cross for the September meeting. Councillor Cross?
Yes, I made a mistake. We actually leave on the 19th of August, so that means I can come to the August council meeting.
Good news for us. Thank you. So do we need a motion for that to amend that? I think it'd be best to do that. Councillor Wright, welcome back. Councillor Luata.
Happy to move that.
Yep. Walter. Thank you. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
Councillor Pritchard was an apology to him. I should just note that as well.
Same mover and seconder. Thank you. Declarations of pecuniary interest. I'd like to declare a declaration of pecuniary interest in 10.1 and also 12.2 in confidential. And I'll be leaving the room for both of those. Councillor Lana will be looking after those. Any other pecuniary interests?
Through the Chair, I'd like to declare a non-significant pecuniary interest in the item 10.1 and I'll be staying for the meeting.
Through the Chair, I'll do the same. 10.1 non-pecuniary interest in the children attending the school.
Thank you, Councillor Lana. No public forum. Confirmation of the minutes of the 13th of June 2019. Remover. Councillor Ham and Councillor Smith, in favour? Carried. Susan, I'll let you know if they're not unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Arising. 20 minutes. Anything arising from any of those minutes?
No, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I was happy with it.
Okay. We've got a mover and a seconder. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay. There's no notice of motion there or minutes. Moves us to 9.1, selection of internal audit provider. Councillor Ham and Councillor Cross. Councillor Ham.
With this, I'd like to congratulate the new chair of the audit committee, Glenys Francis. This is the first time I've been involved with the selection of internal audit provider, but the information we've been given has been absolutely excellent. I feel like myself as a committee member, has been part of the process the whole way along, and that's why I work with Glenys, and I just wanted to put a vote of appreciation into that, and also congratulate the council that there is audit risk training that most of the committee are able to attend next week.
Thank you.
I'd just echo what Councillor Ham just said, and also thank Mr Walker, who's obviously one of the newer members of the committee, but obviously a local identity who's a very strong business community person and has provided, obviously a great deal of professional input to the committee. And Glenys is obviously steering this. And it's a necessary function of council that we've got to get right, and I think we have got it right. So
Thank you, Councillor Ryder. Any further comment? Put the motion, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Excuse me. The Code of Conduct panel reviewers, 9.2, Governance Finance. 2 recommendations there. Councillor Ham, Councillor Larder. Councillor Ham.
Just to clarify, I wonder if I could ask the General Manager just to exactly explain what this is.
Certainly. Mr. General Manager.
Through the Chair, Councillor Ham, this is in regards to any code of conduct complaints that are put in. We have to employ external person to facilitate those investigations. The Canberra JO has already advertised and done a selection process for that panel, and they've resolved on that matter. We also advertised it on our website at the same time, and this is just to formalise that we can use that same panel for the Snowy Valleys Council process. As a member of the managers group, I was actually on the assessment panel for this as well.
Okay, so this code of conduct panel reviewers can be used in Canberra, Bega, Wagga, before the JO.
Should the council resolve separately to use that panel. So the alternative is that we could advertise our own panel process and go through a selection. However, it's seen as sufficient to do that across the whole region.
So it's one of the benefits of being part of the JO.
Definitely is, yes.
Councillor Larder.
And just in regard to that, obviously the 1 to 12 is not necessarily a preference. It's, we base it on expertise.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Anything further? Put the motion, all in favour? It's carried unanimously. Statement of investments. 9.3, 1 recommendation there that we receive the statements of investment. Councillor Wright and Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Wright.
I have to say, it looks pretty good. Good to see our MP drop the back of it.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Ham.
I thought there was some discussion that fairly soon we're going to have a monthly report on movement.
So through the Chair, Councillor Ham, we promised Council that we would start a monthly report on our financials and that would start in August for the month of July. So we're nearly at the end of the month of July now. Once we've finalised the July month, we will provide a separate report back to Council each month on the previous month. So that'll start at the August Council meeting.
Thank you.
Nothing further? Take the motion, all in favour? It's carried unanimously. I'll hand over to Councillor Larder. Leave the room.
I have the Tuman High School footpath. We've got 2 recommendations there on page 30. Mover and seconder. Councillor Wright, Councillor Ham. Any discussion on those?
Not much discussion, I think, because we've got to support these sort of things. You've got a school, you've got a road, you've got parking, lots of things we've got to look after safety of our youth, and just get on with it, I think.
I'd actually like to go into committee about it.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Cross, Councillor Benjamin. All those in favour?
I agree wholeheartedly, Councillor Wright, but why Tuman High School? Why now? Why isn't it Tumba High School or Gingelly School or whatever? And it just seems very targeted. And I'm not. It just brought to me the question of how it decided when footpaths are done and when, or, you know, what's our, if I could ask Mr. Christensen, you know, what is our process with footpaths?
Mr. Chair, the request came directly from the acting principal of the Tumbarumba High School on the acknowledgement that new fencing was going to be installed around the perimeter of the school, which was going to be fundamentally changing the access points to the school. Those access points will no longer be on areas of footpaths, so the request is coming that we construct footpaths to direct people to the access points.
So when can it be done?
There's no budget allocation in the current financial year.
Yeah.
The recommendation requests that Council considers it in its 2021 budget considerations, or if Council wishes to accelerate the delivery, we can look at delivering it within a quarterly budget review once we have a bunch of budget source to be able to deliver the project.
Well, I think after what Councillor Wright said, that would be a good idea, and I'd also think it would be good if it could be done during the Christmas holidays. So, it, you know, just I think it would make it easier for council if the children were walking in that.
Mr. Chair, yeah, of course we can schedule the works in to suit that, and it will be dependent on budget availability.
So that will come to council again next meeting, or can we put it in now?
So through the chair, if the councillors that move that motion would like to add to the end of the second item, or at the next, or consider the matter at the next budget review meeting, then that could facilitate the earlier delivery. We can certainly look at that and see if we can move our capital works program around to facilitate the early delivery of this. It may mean that another project then gets delayed into the future budget. But that way you can consider that matter at the next quarterly review, like Mr. Christensen suggested.
I think so. I'm happy with that.
Is the second happen?
Yes.
Probably just another thing to note there is that I think there would be some concern in the Tumbarumba community about the prioritisation of a footpath around the school, given the fact that the hospital precinct certainly doesn't have any footpath to it. Yeah, it's not adequate at all. But I think the thing to remember there is that blueprint for the hospital is still a work in progress, and until such time as we're settled on a finalised plan with the state government over that hospital, then it would be it would be silly of us to actually build a footpath and then have to rip it up. So,
I raise a point about the high school project. The footpath is going to be delayed for some time, quite evidently. Can I raise the issue of public safety and council's liability?
Mr. Christensen?
Through Mr. Chair, the road verges that are currently grassed are in a somewhat stable condition to be able to allow footpath traffic. They may be uncomfortable to walk on when it's wet. They should be trafficable for foot traffic. With regards to council's liability, if a reported defect is made to council, council has a duty of care to inspect, make safe and rectify the issue in accordance with that request being made. If council undertakes those steps, we are meeting our liability expectations and duty of care to the public.
Thank you.
And what about a child that needs wheelchair access, something like that?
Mr. Christensen?
For you, Mr. Chair, there is a universal access car parking space at the entrance to the school in Bogon Place. That's where those who need the universal access should be parking rather than on Herbert or City streets.
Councillor?
I think this does raise an issue about footpaths in general, that in Tumut our footpaths are fairly old and some of them don't exist. I know that there's been a lot of talk about getting one along Fitzroy Street. So do we have a plan around footpaths and upgrades and that sort of thing?
Mr. Christensen?
For you, Mr. Chair, council currently has no expansion plan for footpaths within the Snowy Valleys Council area. That is something we are working towards currently in the current financial year to present to council to provide that way forward. With regards to council condition, we regularly inspect our footpaths on the basis of condition, identify defects, and that will be confirmed through a third-party assessment later on this calendar year. We have a re-evaluation of our transport assets occurring, and they undertake a condition assessment.
Is there if you're building a new house, do you have to put in a contribution towards a footpath? Can we ask the Education Department to put in a contribution? Does that work?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is provisions in the Roads Act to require those who are fronting a proposed footpath to contribute. It's never been asked of state government to contribute, and I think that council, if it were to undertake that step, and this would be maybe a test case for that to proceed. So there is provisions legislatively to pursue it, and we certainly pursue private citizens with that regard. In draft form, there is a policy for council's consideration at a future meeting with regards to if council is going to pursue that area of legislation or not. Once that is adopted, we can consider asking the state government to contribute to this.
I see here that we do have that footpath will cost an extra, cost of the footpath asset will increase $500 a year towards our cost of maintenance of footpaths. So I guess there isn't a budget in there for maintenance of footpaths throughout the whole council, so I guess that covers some of that too.
Well, anything further? All right, so we'll move back into council. Councillor Ham, all those in favour? Against? Carried. All right, well, now we just need to vote on the motion with the amendment. Everyone happy there's an amendment there? Okay, so all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried unanimously. If he's still alive.
No more comments.
Mr Mayor, that was resolved unanimously with a slight amendment to number 2 to review of the quarterly budget. Consider a review of the project of the quarterly budget.
Thank you, Councillor Lada. (10.2) Request for road closure. There's 5 recommendations there. Councillor Lada, Councillor Benjamin. Councillor Lada, no. Councillor Ham.
This road I drive past all the time. I think the Grady's made a good point here, and I'm quite happy to accept the recommendations, but we'll note that it is on an unsealed part of the road that join the former Tumbarumba and Tumbarumba shires together, the Lower Bago Road, and I would really appreciate if the council could help me in lobbying to get that part of the road sealed, because if nothing else, it would be a fantastic bike track, it would be help with tourism, and it would symbolically join the two former shires together.
Is that all?
Thank you.
Pleasure. Anyone else? No other barrows to push?
How many, what's the length of seal required on that?
2.7 kilometres, I think.
Probably something for another.
It's about the same distance as the Yabba Creek, and that was actually sealed 2 months ago. So, and I think you probably find that this road gets used a bit more than the Yabba Creek road. So I think it's something that we all need to be.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. It's probably anyone like to speak against the motion? Anyone else like to speak for the motion?
I just thought of ask whether they had good access from the other landholders next to it, whether they really want to need it. But I guess by looking at the map, they can come in off Yavin Creek.
Yes. Thank you.
Sealed.
Nothing further? Put the motion, all in favour? Carried.
Unanimous.
Unanimously. Manus Lake Blue-Green Algal Interim Report. Councillor Ham, can you work with this?
I'm just accepting
Just
it.
moving it, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Lara. It's a long bar. Nothing further?
I'd actually like to go into committee about this, if that's okay, Mr Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Lara. All in favour? Moving to committee? That's unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Ham.
On behalf of the Toomer and Tumbarumba community, just want to point out the gravity of this blue-green algae outbreak that we've had quite badly for the last 2 years. It is certainly affecting their agricultural use downstream. Within Tumbarumba, it's a beautiful recreational area out there at Manus, and you know, every summer there's just signs up you can't use it. So the fact that we've got this interim report is fabulous. What I'm worried about is recommendation number 4, when it says consider providing $45,000 towards the project. I'm not happy with this consider. I would be happy if we commit to $45,000, because I want this project to start the concepts and design. Well, one, I'd like that to be contracted out to someone who knows what they're talking about, but I'd like this to start tomorrow, because really it would be great if this 1920 season we can have these agitators in, and downstream it's no blue-green algae, and Tumbarumba can enjoy water sports.
I agree totally.
Thank you, Councillor.
And where do you propose the money comes from?
Well, this is a question that I would like to ask the General Manager or Mr.
Mr. Christensen.
Thank you, Mr.
You
Mayor.
don't feel compelled to answer, but if you can give...
The projects would be a delay to the delivery of some volume in some parks in across the regional area. It was budgeted $50,000 to replace the bollards. How that would be delayed to a later year.
So would it be possible to start this project tomorrow?
It would be possible to start engaging with the consultant, which would be suggested to be Public Works Authority, state government body in charge of public works of the state, to start implementing the next phase of the project.
Okay, and then further down the track, thank you, that's great news. Further down the track, what's happening and what's our advocacy being for getting, you know, we're going to need $200,000 or $300,000 for this. How's that looking?
There is grant funding applications available through the federal government, which can be lodged by the state government, so council doesn't have the ability to lodge directly. So we will require some advocacy on the state government level as well as the federal government level to seek some funding to the project. But that will be dependent on the outcomes of this next phase of the scoping of the extent of the work that we have to do. So once we have that short figure of what we have to do to put a permanent solution in place, we can then seek the funding for it. Certainly in the meantime, advocacy is very much warranted to progress this project.
Thank you. And I know we've talked to John Barilaro about it, Justin Clancy. I think we should organise a meeting with Susan Lee to follow this up as well.
We have spoken to Justin Clancy about it, and he's going to help us.
Great.
Have we received any feedback from the Water Council about their trial with the aerators or whatever they were doing?
I don't know whether we've sought any. Have we sought any, Mr. Christensen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have had some conversations with them. They are in a slightly different situation to what we are facing here. They're faced with very shallow water, whereas ours is up to 5 metres depth, and is a smaller across the area. So it is quite a slightly different situation. Theirs is a much harder problem to solve than ours.
We've got fresh water coming into ours all the time too, whereas it's stagnant.
Well, given they're having their problems harder to solve than ours. Are they having any success with what they're doing?
They're still still trialling it, and we'll get abreast of what's going on there. But
It's
certainly
not reading well on the paper.
nothing that can really help us in our project development stage.
So, with recommendation 4, is there a recommendation to change that word consider, or are we going to say we're going to provide those funds? Is there some wording change there?
So, through the chair, if I may, with that item there, we typically reprioritise our works at a budget review, so you can consider it in the whole scheme of the budget. Item 3 there does state that the project will commence, so we will already start to go to public works. We'll go and get the design stuff done. The first budget review will be in October, and that's the time where we could reallocate that and fund the actual look at funding the start of the construction for that. So the project should be able to commence without that.
So the funding, tomorrow we can send it out to get the concept and design started.
And recommendation 6 suggests we advocate for funding, but we'll keep doing that as well.
Thank you.
Nothing further?
I say, can we move it out of committee?
Thank you for that. We'll have a second. Councillor Martin, all in favour? Everybody, thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder for that. Same. Anything further on that? Put the motions, all 6. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 10.4, 2019 Council Study Tour of North East Victoria. I'd just like to thank the author of this and also the organisers for making it such an enjoyable and useful tour for us. And I know some of the things we saw, the ideas have germinated and are progressing in our communities already. So wonderful to see, and certainly very worthwhile to do these things if we can find the time. Anything further? Councillor Ham.
Within that study tour, we were lucky enough to stop at Camp
Do
COVID.
we have a movement down?
No, we haven't.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Councillor Ham and Lada were the 2 moving seconds.
So I agree with your comments. It was fabulous, and I'm very impressed with Try, totally renewable Yakandanda. I'm very excited that people in the Tumbarumba community are going to take off with that idea as well, which is very exciting. It's recommendation number 4 that I'd like to discuss. I don't know if you want to go into committee about it. It's a support the contribution. I think I'd like to go into committee about it so we can discuss it. The Upper Murray 2030.
Moving that way. Second, Councillor Lada. All in favour? It's unanimous.
So on our way back, we stopped in at Camp Coburn, and generously the Upper Murray 2030 board met with us in Camp Coburn. They have asked for a contribution of $15,000 from Snorri Valleys Council to support the 2030 program this year. So first I thought, was that a typo that it's saying only $5,000, but apparently it's not. And like, to me, this Upper Murray 2030 program is promoting tourism, it's promoting agriculture, it's actually doing part of our job, particularly as we're short-staffed in tourism. And like, I would like the contribution to be $15,000, but there must be a reason for this, if somebody could speak on that.
We don't have it.
We don't have it? Okay.
Through the chair, if I may, the request was for $15,000. The staff have considered that and looked at the available budget to support community groups. And what we've been able to allocate internally is $5,000 cash. However, we will spend a bit of time and resources and look at other projects that can match into that to assist them with their other objectives. But cash-wise, we can only afford $5,000 in our current budget.
So why we don't have a tourism officer? Can those sort of monies be delegated there?
So council in this budget has a number of efficiency savings that it has to meet, and staff vacancies, etc., all contribute towards those. We can review that at the quarterly budget review, certainly, and if we're ahead of schedule, then that would be good. But we do look to, we don't actually fully fund our staff complement for the whole term. We assume that we're going to have vacancies, etc., as part of our budget process.
Okay. Well, I'd like to revisit it. That'd be great.
Councillor Larder, then Councillor Smith.
Just 2 points. I think too that they probably made representation for funding from the neighbouring council in Victoria as well, and that was, have they contributed the same?
Through the chair, there have been discussions between the two councils just to make sure, as it's a cross-border issue, that the two councils work together to support the objectives of that group. And I'm of the understanding the other council is funding to a similar degree to what we're proposing.
And the other thing I was going to note was the Albury waste management thing. Perhaps at some point if we could just, let the community know that, as a result of that field trip, we were able to see a piece of equipment which is going to bring a great deal of benefit to our community in that polystyrene, whatever you call it.
Recycling.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, so who's the expert on that? Maybe they could give a bit of a brief for the community, because I think it's a really exciting project for us.
Councillor Smith.
Yes, in terms of the contribution to the Upper Murray Inc., I was at their board meeting during the week, and they certainly seemed to be under the impression that it was a $15,000 contribution. That was on the basis probably that that's what they'd sought. Through you, Mr. Mayor, can I ask the General Manager, have they now been advised of that reduced amount?
Through the chair, this is a recommendation to council, and the staff have been able to find $5,000 within the existing budget. It's council's decision about how much they support. We're recommending $5,000. If council wants us to consider $15,000, I suggest that you look at passing the $5,000 in this resolution, and that we look to the additional funds at the quarterly budget review. But that's probably about the best we could do on this short notice.
Can we make some mention of that under item 4?
We certainly can. If the mover and seconder are willing to change the resolution, we can refer the further $10,000 to the quarterly budget review.
That's a great idea.
Councillor Cross, you.
I was going to echo what Councillor Larton was saying about the waste facility and the concept that you can compress polystyrene and make it into a big brick that gets sent to China to be repurposed, but it actually brings in money for the council to sell. And I thought, I don't know how we progressed with that. I believe we were going to purchase that machine.
Mr. Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a bit of lead time on that purchase. It has been ordered, and I expect it to be here in 3-4 months.
And we will be able to then on-sell it and generate income from it?
Yes, we will.
Fantastic.
For the purpose of listeners, this is a machine which you put polystyrene into the top of, it heats it up and it comes out in like a sausage, and it melted and is formed into a brick, basically, which is much better than burying polystyrene.
Yeah.
And if I may, through the chair, that's record council turnaround time and seeing a new piece of technology, and actually having the budget through the waste management levy to be able to actually contribute and make that purchase as soon as we enter the financial year. So it's good to see.
And maybe just recommend some reflection on Martin's commitment there to waste. I think that needs to be acknowledged, because he has been a driving force behind all that, hasn't he?
Yes.
And we're actually making money, aren't we, with our waste at the moment, like collecting the bottles and the silage, agricultural waste.
So all that information we presented back to you with the waste management strategy about how the business runs as a whole. But certainly there are components of that generate a surplus that fund other components of the waste program.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further? We're in committee? We go out of committee?
Just highlight the bit that's changed in that, if you could please, Susan.
Councillor Larder, Councillor Benjamin, all in favour? We're out of committee. Unanimous. Right, Susan. So we have a move and a seconder, and they've both agreed to the change.
Who was on board? So it's Ham and Lada.
Yes? Anything further? Councillor Cross.
Have we written to all these people that we visited to say thank you very much for their hospitality and for their ideas? We did get some fabulous ideas out of that trip, and it would be nice to acknowledge their support and contribution to that.
Would you like to add that to the recommendation? I'm unsure whether we have formally done that. I would think we've done that by phone, but I'm not sure whether we've formally done that. But a letter from the Mayor would be a great idea.
So the move and a second happen to
And could you, operationally, if you do it, doesn't matter, maybe, also thank you to Martin for all his input.
Yes, we'll do that operation. Thanks. Councillor Lada.
So we've got...
And I'm just going to speak on recommendation number 6 about the cycling tourism and just...
You're closing the debate, are you?
Yes.
Yes. Are you the mover?
Yes.
You can do that.
Thank you. and just from what I can see from where I am and my feedback in the community is congratulations to how well the rail trail is going in Tumbarumba, and it just seems to me it is great that the community are involved in what's happening. So just congratulations.
And I think if we can say something along the lines that we formally wish to acknowledge and thank the communities that we visited and served. Yes.
So we're just adjusting the recommendation. Debate's now closed.
I'd also like to have something put in there about their sharing of their knowledge. Sorry, the sharing of their knowledge with us. So
Hospitality and the sharing of knowledge.
Right? All in favour? No one against? That's unanimous. Thank you. Councillors? Execution of draft SVC Development Control Plan 2019. 2 recommendations there. We've had a workshop on this as well. So it goes out to public exhibition. Want to move that way? Councillor Ham, Councillor Wright. Councillor Ham.
Oh, I'm with you. Like it's a very important document, particularly in how we develop the council, and I presume that there's going to be a media release that it's out and open consultation, and then that comes back next meeting to be passed.
28 days, maybe the one after.
No, yeah, depends on, through the chair, depends on the amount of public response and how much it is to change the document in response to those.
Correct. To encourage the general public to look at it and read it.
Certainly a very important document.
Yeah.
Any developers, certainly.
Definitely.
Anyone involved in it. Anyone further? Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's carried again unanimously. Brings us to minutes of committee meetings. First one is 11.1 Aboriginal Liaison Committee meeting. Councillor Pritchard's not here today. Someone move that way. Councillor Smith.
Yes, I was at that meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Do you have a second?
Sorry.
Councillor Cross. Councillor Smith.
Yes, I was at that meeting. It was held in this room last week, or a week or so ago. And I was very impressed with the the way that the meeting was conducted, the chair, former councillor Bolger, and the participation of all the community within that group. Very well done and very dedicated people.
Look, I'd like to thank Councillor Larder for standing in for me. I was away for the NAIDOC week, and then unfortunately I was ill for the flag raising in Tumbarumba, so I'd like to thank everybody who stood in for me while I was there. Councillor Smith, for you, and Councillor Larder. Thank you very much. Anything further from those recommendations?
I'll just add to that, Councillor Cross will agree as well that the new facilities down there in Maryvale Street, yeah, just wonderful. Great improvement on the building that the Land Council had, and great to see a former mayor there in Sue Bolger, so active with the Aboriginal community. And to be part of that as council was really good.
Put the recommendations. All in favour? Carried. It's unanimous again. Minutes of the Aerodrome Committee meeting. Councillor Larder. Councillor Benjamin. Anything from there? Councillor Smith.
Yes, Mr Mayor, reference was made to the draft terms of reference, which brings a question about the general terms of reference of all S355 committees. I'm wondering if we can have a progress report as to when that might be forthcoming.
Yes, through the chair, if I may. The review of Section 355 committees is progressing quite quickly now, which is good news. And guidelines are being developed, and the terms of reference are all under review at the moment. So I'm sure it will be a matter of only a couple of months now until those documents are able to be worked through with Section 55 committees. So we're looking at least another 2 months, but our time frame was before the end of December this year.
I know that the Battler Development League, for one, is looking forward to getting that finalised so they know how to operate effectively.
And if I may add to that too, that there will be some visits to those committees, to those meetings, to introduce the guidelines, to talk through the terms of reference and discuss any questions that might arise from the committees with regard to that material.
Thank you.
Just acknowledge the outgoing member, Mr Francis, for his contribution to that committee over a long-standing period, and welcome the expertise of Mr John Gregory to that committee, who's the RFS commander locally, and brings a great deal of emergency service expertise to that committee. And I think he was also part of the voluntary working group that put together the lighting previously.
No doubt.
Now, in regard to this airport, I think we need to probably have a more consistent approach to what we're doing there, because I think it's going to be a valuable long-term asset to us into the future as a region. And I note that we're speaking with the Deputy Prime Minister at the end of this month, and this will be one of the key talking points with him. But we've got a plan that we've sort of put in the back of our agenda on the airport air park. We've now got a significant interest from the Rural Fire Service and other emergency services. It's obviously a significant link for emergency services to provide evacuation of sick people. It potentially is going to be a network for the Snowy Hydro 2.0, and we really don't have anything concrete about what we can or can't do on that site. It's a little bit piecemeal. There are security issues with regards to the fencing. There is pavement issues, and we probably just need, I think, to have a workshop with some of the significant contributors to the aerodrome and the councillors and key staff about workshopping that to get a proposal up to take that into the future.
Are you aware that if we have a master plan to the airport, or Mr. Christensen, might be a question to you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a master plan for the aerodrome. Some of the items you've just raised aren't included in that aerodrome, so it would be a worthwhile process of undertaking a review of that master plan and updating it.
So we need a master plan 2.0, I think. So
Through the chair, if the mover and seconder are happy to add an additional item on there, item 4, thanks Susan. The council will advocate for an upgrade to the existing master plan and for funding for the implementation of that upgrade. That's suitable for removal and seconding.
yes, happy with that?
Yes.
Anything further? Put the motion, all in favour? Carried.
Implementation, funding for implementation.
Okay. Brings us to 11.3 local traffic committee meeting held on the 3rd of April.
Happy to move that.
Councillor Lara, Councillor Wright.
Can I just make a note there that I think somebody who's in charge of that fixed speed camera device should take note of the legalities of what they're up to with that, because on numerous occasions I've seen this speed camera parked on the Snow Mountains Highway, and the signs are hidden from public view. They're either in, they're not visible, and I think it's a revenue raising exercise. I've never attended an accident in my profession on that road in the vicinity that equipment's being set up, so I'm not sure why you would put it there. I don't know how it could be considered a black spot. So, if they're going to put that stuff there, I think the traffic committee needs to take back to that organisation that's facilitating that equipment. I understand there's obviously a safety, a provision around it, but it should be set up in accordance with regulations, and it's been numerous times that I've noted that it's not.
Councillor Lara, maybe that's something the traffic committee can look at. Maybe the traffic committee can make some suggestions as to places where it might be more appropriate. Mr. Christensen.
Mr. Chair, the matter could be dealt with by council as an operational matter. However, the terms of reference for the traffic committee are clear that council doesn't influence the regulatory functions of the police for the traffic committee.
Thank you. So we have the recommendation that we receive the report. All in favour? Carried. Unanimous. 11.4 Tumbarumba Youth Council Committee meeting. Councillor Cross, Councillor Wright. 2 recommendations there.
Can I just ask, was there any council representative there? I noticed Mark was there, but no councillor.
I usually go to that, but I was away, obviously.
Fair enough.
Yes, Councillor Lara.
Can I just ask what link that we have we got any link between Tumbarumba and Tumut Youth Council?
I guess the link is the Marcus and Singh.
Yeah.
So he's the link, and there's certain times when they come together or they share ideas.
Yeah. And she's working very hard on that link.
Yes, he is.
He's doing a good job, I think.
He is doing a good job.
Yeah.
He's great.
Can I speak on the
Councillor Smith, certainly you may.
mural suggestion there, and in that recommendation.
Where is it?
No, July. That's June.
Oh, sorry. Wrong committee there.
Just-
We've all done it.
You're a little bit ahead of us. Put the motion, all in favour? It's carried, thank you. Unanimous. Tumut Railway Precinct Committee. Councillor Larder, Councillor Cross. In there. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried, unanimous. Councillor Smith. Councillor Cross. Yes?
The Tumut
Tumut
Council.
Councillor, you're moving that?
Yes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Cross.
Right. The pump track in Tumut, the Youth Council would very much like to be involved in the landscaping as volunteers, like the Tumbarumba one. We've received a grant, a regional and rural grant towards when it's opened to put on some special event to coincide with the opening.
Perfect.
The other thing, I've asked for a councillor update to be put onto the agenda for our formal meetings so that I'm able to bring back to the Youth Council any issues that we discuss that are relevant to them so that we can create a better bridge, as well as because I provide updates to you about what's happening with the Youth Council. So this is a way of being able to talk to them about current issues that we are working on. Following on from the colour run, the Gotcha for Life people were just so impressed with what the community, the support the community got, that they want to come back, or they're thinking about coming back in 2020 to do a video on the changes around that workshops that they did there. They are applying, the youth committee is applying for a grant to do a mural on the wall of the boys club. It's going to be a very tasteful mural. If you look at the application that they did, it's not going to be graffiti or anything like that. It's going to be very tasteful along the lines that they do with silos and like Sheffield in Tasmania, where they do things. And the person that they are hoping to engage for that mural will also be running workshops around building capacity for the youth to be able to do that elsewhere. So I'm very supportive of that project. I think it's a great way of making the boys club a more youth-friendly place. We're looking at it being an open space, so looking at how it can be utilised further, and I think this is a great start. The code of conduct for meeting procedures was also presented to the Youth Council members, and they all have a copy of it and have been made aware of their responsibilities with regard to that. Thank you.
Nothing further? Put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Very comprehensive summary, Councillor Cross, as usual. Battler Development League. Councillor Smith, you moving that?
Yes, thank you.
Seconder? Councillor Larder.
I don't think there's anything to add at the moment, Mr. Mayor.
Put the motion, all in favour? Carried, unanimous. Fenway Heritage Reserve Committee meeting, 4th of May. Councillor Ham, Councillor Wright.
I was unable to attend this. However, they did have 3 recommendations, and one of their recommendations from this meeting is they'd like to look at one of those great big road signs. Apparently they're RMS signs. Maybe Mr. Christensen, if you could inform me what sort of signs I'm talking about, maybe cost and how to apply for.
Right. I can't see that recommendation.
No, nor can I, but it was there before, wasn't it?
Are they in the attachment?
They're in the attachment, that's what it is.
Which I've got somewhere.
So it's on page 212. The 3 recommendations: tourist sign, agreement with Penny Greenhalgh and limbs over the fence.
Look, can we ask them to be a little bit more comprehensive on this and add a little bit more, and then come to the next
Well, I
meeting?
suppose that's me as a delegate. I followed that up and we'll talk to them about it and just
Yeah.
know that that is what they wanted. And I will take that on board, and I hope to attend the next meeting, which is on the 3rd of August, and we'll do that. But just while I've got Mr. Christensen here, could I ask what should they be asking for?
Are you aware of?
Yeah.
Mr. Christensen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the signs refer to our tourist advisory signs, which are white on brown background. The magnitude of cost is dependent on the size. They could be anywhere to $1,000 to $2,000. Being at that location, it would need to be approved by Roads and Maritime Services, and the likelihood would be that the cost would not be incurred by Roads and Maritime Services. They would require it to be made by the applicant, if that's the Glenroy Heritage Society or the council.
Terrific, and thank you. And the second point is they're trying to come up with an agreement with council with a former Tumbarumba resident, Penny Greenhalgh. There's a book called The Midwives of Rosewood, which is a recommended read. It's quite fascinating about how babies were born back in the day, and Penny's grandmother was one of the midwives. So she's, if I could defer to Robin Harvey to explain exactly what it's about.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I can advise that we've been working with Ms. Greenhalgh for a while now on an agreement around the book, or
The rights to the book, isn't it?
Rights to the book, that's correct. And we have struck an agreement. She's put forward a proposed agreement to us. We're very happy with that. It actually directs any profit from, or an ongoing profit from that, back to the Pine Hut. We're just waiting for her to return from an overseas trip so that we can actually progress that agreement. But yeah, we're certainly supportive of what's been proposed.
Great. And just out of interest, Penny Greenhalgh, she's a former student of Tumbarumba, and she's made quite a name for herself as a comedian, and she's in the entertainment world, so she understands, you know, that this could come into a major movie one day, maybe. And then the third point, the limbs have been removed.
Thank you. All right. Can I put the recommendations? All in favour? Carried. Unanimous. Cancoba Community Committee meeting 5th of June. Councillor Ham, Councillor Smith.
As we love doing every month, Councillor Smith and I went down to Cancoban to the Couva, and I'd like to say, can we certainly receive their report? They are just doing so many positive things down there, and it's within this minutes they talk about how they've applied for small community grants, and it was wonderful today to be part of the small community grant presentation here in Tumbarumba, which is supported by Bendigo Bank, Pine Community Trust, and Snowy Valleys Council. It was just tremendous. There was 20 different communities, and they all had a different story to tell. It was fantastic. But something that came up last month when we were there is Corryong's having a lot of trouble getting doctors. And unbeknownst to me, Snowy Hydro has a medical centre down there which is being used by the beautician at the moment. But it was brought up whether it would be a possibility that we advocate for Cancoban, particularly with Snowy 2.0 coming on, to have at least a part-time doctor going there, which I know that we're having a health summit soon, so would that Would you be able to talk on that, Robin, about what the Health Summit is, and is that something Cancoba can link in with?
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor, I can certainly outline the Health Summit, which is scheduled to happen next Tuesday evening, the 23rd of July in Tumut. The purpose of the summit is to basically bring all of the key stakeholders together in relation to our medical and health services regionally to tackle the problems that we're currently experiencing, particularly with medical workforce shortage, and to identify some solutions together as a collective, because it is very much a shared problem across a whole range of different agencies. At this point in time, so I guess to your point about Cancoban's needs should be considered in that mix as well. We do have really good attendance at that summit next week. We've got most of our GP practices represented, and we're certainly going to be talking to any that haven't RSVP'd yet to try to get them on board with us. We have the Rural Doctors Network, the Chief Executive of that organisation, coming to talk to us about rural doctor issues and challenges. We've got the Primary Health Network for Murrumbidgee, we've got the Murrumbidgee Local Health District Chief Executive providing a presentation to us around local issues and what's been done to date and what ideas are ahead. We've got our local member attending, we've got the chairs of the local health advisory committees, of which Tumbarumba, Batlow and Tumut are all representing. The Tumut Community Association there are a couple of people from that group coming along too. They've been very active in that space just recently. And of course all the councillors are invited to come along, and the council executive will be there too. So a good forum to discuss certainly Cancoban's needs amongst all of that.
So has the local member from Albury, Justin Clancy, has he been invited?
No, actually.
I think we better follow that up.
Yeah, we can certainly follow that up.
Yeah. And how are the general public going to find out about what was discussed and the outcomes?
Following the forum or the summit on Tuesday night, we'll prepare a media statement that will go out on Wednesday. So we have our communications officer that's already starting to prepare that at the moment. We'll just wait to see some of the outcomes of the meeting and get that out on Wednesday.
Perfect. Thank you.
Can I ask the question, is Cancoban actually in the Murray local, the same health service area that we're talking about? Are they in that geographical area?
I believe so, through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I believe they're part of our Murrumbidgee Local Health District. I'll certainly check on that, but it's my understanding that they are.
Anything further from Cancoban?
Yes, there was something. In regards to the meeting afterwards, the informal cuppa with a councillor, both Councillor Ham and myself were very occupied with visitors who came to speak to us about various activities and various needs. One of the particular ones that I became interested in or became involved with was the club that we as a council have been looking to support. And the discussion was around having a public meeting in Cancoban to suggest having the club transfer down to the shopping centre, to the shop that we currently own, as part of the move of establishing a community centre, and for them to move the Couva office and the op shop also into that building. So I'm just putting that forward as an item that was put forward by the community and what council's response to that might be.
Okay. And Councillor Ham?
And following on that, another discussion that came up, which I found very interesting, is that there has been a letter sent to Council in March from the Cancoban Preschool Committee offering to sell the preschool to Snorri Valleys Council for $1. So Snorri Valleys Council could then take over that preschool. And at the moment, the committee, which is unincorporated, is asking rent from Snorri Valleys Council, but we can't really give rent to them because they're not incorporated. So the governance of that whole preschool, of which we do help run, needs to be tightened up. I would strongly recommend that we go with this, but of course it needs to come to a report on that. So if that could be done by next month, that would be fantastic.
Through the chair, I'm aware that we're evaluating that request and we're looking at the whole of life cost and the building condition. So taking on an asset might sound like a great idea for $1, but we need to know what the total cost to the community is.
And I suppose that's why I'm really excited at the moment, because there is a lot of money available and it's a rolling fund that's coming around. I think every 9 months it comes out, and a lot of preschools have been getting, you know, $500,000 to $1 million to be done up. And I realise that this would be a perfect place to spend some money.
Some councillors may remember that the Batley Cannery site was offered to council, Student Shire Council, for $1 at one stage.
Let me assure you, this is at a better standard.
Thank you. Anything further? We haven't resolved the public meeting for Camp Carrigan yet, but maybe that's something you can discuss at your next meeting, that we'd be interested in some of the suggestions for the shop front.
Yep. Should we put that in can we resolve that to hold a public meeting? So
Well, shouldn't they hold a public meeting? Shouldn't it be Cooper that holds the public meeting,
okay,
not council?
terrific.
We recommend that to them.
Yep, I'm sure they'll happily do that.
Yeah. It doesn't mean we won't attend, but yeah,
We'll be there.
we'll be there, of course. Put the motion, all in favour? Carried. Unanimous. Well, you. Okay.
I'm just helping Susan so she doesn't have that.
Tumbarumba Men's Shed. Great to see the Men's Shed get a grant today from the Tumbarumba Small Grants as well. 2 recommendations there. Councillor Wright. Councillor Ham.
You know, everything looks good there, and I'd like to say I've read whether they've applied for a grant for a milling machine, and they've got the money for it today.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
I think it's great. It's a great resource, and I recommend it.
So, put the recommendations, 1 and 2, all in favour? It's carried. Unanimously. Councillors, can I have someone move that we go into confidential?
Yes.
Councillor Smith and Councillor Lada, all in favour? Unanimously. Thank you. So we're now in confidential. Thank you. Council considered in confidential design and construction for the Cancoban streetscape upgrade and Talbingo beautification and play areas. This was in confidential as it relates to commercial information in a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. And Council considers that discussion of the matter in an open meeting would be on balance contrary to the public interest. Council also considered the Adelon facade grants. This is in confidential as it relates to information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a competitor of the Council, and Council considers that discussion of the matter in an open meeting would be on balance contrary to the public interest. We'll move to the General Manager, who will...
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to item 12.1, design and construction for the Cancoban streetscape upgrade and the Talbingo beautification and play area projects, Council resolved that receive the report on the outcomes of the tender process for the design and construction of the Cancoban streetscape and Talbingo improvements to the public areas project. 2, resolve the Council resolve in accordance with section 55 of the NSW Local Government Act 1993 to accept the tender of Remgem Pty Ltd trading as Artscape Landscape Services for the design and construction of the Cancoban streetscape for the lump sum amount of $329,588 excluding GST. And 3, the Council resolve in accordance with section 55 of the New South Wales Local Government Act 1993 to accept the tender of Remgem Proprietary Limited trading as Artscape Landscape Services for the design and construction of the Talbingo improvements to the public areas for the lump sum amount of $149,906 excluding GST, that we advise the unsuccessful tenderers in writing, and that we authorise the General Manager to enter into a contract with Remgem Proprietary Limited trading as Artscape Landscape Services for the design and construction of the Cancoban streetscape and Talbingo improvements to public areas project. In relation to item 12.2, the Mayor left the meeting for a conflict of interest, and the matter is in relation to the Adelon facade grants. The recommendation was adopted that Council acknowledge the report of the Adelon facade grants from the Coordinator of Community and Cultural Development be received, and the Council endorse the funding of $100,000 provided through the Stronger Communities Fund Round 2 Adelon facade grants for the projects that will improve the street appeal in Tumut Street, Main Street of Adelon. These projects included 88 Tumut Street Old Pharmacy Building of $8,000, 63 Tumut Street Supermarket $5,800, 89 Tumut Street Panel Repairs $5,000, 72 to 76 Tumut Street Hairdresser and Ray White of $7,000, 49 Tumut Street Residential Units and Cafe $10,000, 77 to 79 Tumut Street Beaufort House $4,100, 62 Tumut Street Bendigo Bank $1,300, 80 Tumut Street Post Office $6,000, 51 Tumut Street Rustic Creations $8,000, 59 Tumut Street Taxidermy $5,000, 78 Tumut Street Bakery Veranda $10,000, 69 to 71 Tumut Street Boston's and the Treasure Chest $2,150, 73 to 75 Tumut Street Elders $2,150, 65 Tumut Street Hotel $8,000, 84 Tumut Street Community Hall $5,000, 82 Tumut Street Office Frontage $2,500, and 54 Tumut Street S&C Club $10,000, and that Council review further grant opportunities and conduct a similar program in other townships.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. That concludes the business for the 18th of July 2019. Thank you very much for your attendance, everybody. Thank you, Mike.